Welcome to the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, episode number 1. I'm your host, Steven Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lippolis Electric, and I'm here with President and CEO Carmine Lippolis. Carmine, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, Steve.
I know you and I have been talking about a podcast a lot lately and the importance of really putting the brand out there so people could hear about what we do, what people in our industry do, and I'm really excited this came to fruition. And really, the focus of our podcast is to bring education and more insight about personal stories, experiences, and more, bringing professionals on that you and I interact with on a daily basis in the industry and around the industry to discuss things like engineering, business, sales, and personal experiences all around from when you started the business back in '84 all the way to current date in 2024, how things may have changed and how things are progressing throughout time. So I'm really excited, and I really think it's going to be a great thing, and a lot of people are going to get a lot out of our podcast. So
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm an advocate for podcasts. I don't know, just before the pandemic, we did some radio podcasts, and I was excited about that, and it went really well, and it really helped our branding, and I'm excited about this. I know we talked about it for a while now, and I think you're going to be a good host here, a really good host, and I'm excited to be part of it.
I appreciate that, Carmen. What were some topics that you spoke about on your last podcast pre-pandemic?
We talked about safety. Obviously, in our industry, we're always talking about safety. We talked about millennials, how I, restructured the company to include a lot of millennials in the company and young people in the company. I felt we had to go there. We also talked about things outside the electrical world. We talked about community and different, organizations we're tied to. So it wasn't just strictly electrical.
And I think that's important too. And, that's why we chose the name Beyond the Blueprint, just so we don't pigeonhole ourselves to just speaking about electrical and engineering. I know we touch a lot of different areas in the world, from philanthropy to, spending time with our families and, amongst a lot of other personal interests we have. And I think it's important to not only talk about our business, but also the things that inspire us to wake up every day and go to work. And that's really where we came up with this name, I feel. So it's a great thing. So I want to go ahead. I'm going to ask you a couple of more personal questions about Lippolis and how you came about in the industry and, topics of that nature. So let's tee it off and see how we do here. Can you share the compelling story with your listeners here about the foundation of Lippolis Electric, how you came about to opening the company, and the journey over the years on where you started and where you are today, the ups, the downs, and the in-betweens?
Well, I'll do the best I can. We only have 30 minutes. It's a 40-year company. But even though it's 40 years, I look back, and the journey, it seems it went a lot quicker than 40 years. And it was, I grew up a very humble background, humble family in Yonkers, South Yonkers, and I was always working around the house with my uncles and always working my hands. And I ended up going to a trade school, Saunders Trade School in Yonkers. From there, I went to go work for somebody, a local electrician, who actually became my mentor. And from there, in 1984, I got my electrical license, and I started doing small jobs and putting up paddle fans, putting up recessed lights, just going to, the one-family houses and doing small jobs. And my brother-in-law, Charlie Small, is my partner. So we were building houses at that time and doing electrical work. So we just decided to do electrical work only.
So when you started back in '84, where was your shop? Where were you storing material?
My shop was a little one-bay garage in Oak Street in Yonkers, and it had a toilet bowl in the middle of the garage, and we had a shower curtain around the toilet bowl. So it was really humble beginnings, but back then, it was good. We didn't expect much because we grew up with, not extravagant life. It was just a humble background. So, then we just grew as a company. We started getting some really good people on board. Rob Doria, who's a principal, came to work as a helper in 1987. We moved to Pelham in 1987. And then we just started growing the company. And what happened was, I always tell the story, is that those mom and pop houses we went to, those customers became CEOs of companies, and then we started following them, and we were almost forced to do their commercial work.
They wanted you in their buildings. They had you in their homes, so it was a no-brainer for them.
Yeah, and they trusted our opinions on how to do the right job, and really we built up that reputation, and we started branching off. We started doing work in New York City in the 5 boroughs. I got my license there. We started doing work in Connecticut. I got my license there. Jersey, I got my license. So, the company just evolved organically. It just grew naturally. And I think one of the things, though, the most common thing we did was that customer service that to this day I love. I love the customer service part about it. I love bending over backwards for customers.
It's very important.
And I think that really makes or breaks from you and your competition. So, and then we just grew, and we started doing bigger work and spreading out to up a little bit upstate New York, Pauling and Poughkeepsie. During this whole journey here, we never got rid of our small jobs. We still go out and service those paddle fans and those light bulbs and the residents, and those small one-family dwelling. We never changed our DNA. I always say it's in our DNA to do that.
It's like my father always says, we'll go from wiring a snake pit to building a 60-story skyscraper in Hudson Yards, New York.
Exactly, and I've been very lucky and blessed over the years. You talk about your father. Your father I've known for 25 years. He's been working for me 20 years. Rob Doria working for me for 37 years. My partner, Charlie Small, I know him since I'm 9 years old. So we have a lot of that longevity in the company. And look at yourself. I mean, you came, you were one of these shop rats that used to come around the office, and you always were around. And look, you're vice president of sales now. It's your story is a podcast in itself.
Thank you.
It's a pretty amazing story. You know how I feel about you. You're like a son to me.
Thank you. That's the biggest thing that I gather from our company culture. At the end of the day, we're like a big family. We all have each other's backs, and we don't let each other fail. And I think that's one of the major keys to the success of our organization at Lippolis Electric.
Yeah, it's challenging because, we have to do certain things very corporate, and we have that type of culture. But at the end of the day, we're a family business.
We are.
And when we come to the office, I don't call it our office, it's our living room. We argue and fight like we're family, and at the end of the day, we love each other like family. And that's the kind of culture I like to have.
100%. We always have each other's backs, when we're talking with other people. Whether we're right or wrong, we always have each other's backs, which is important.
Absolutely.
What inspired you to embark on the entrepreneurial path and not stay just as an electrician, when you started in the industry?
That's a great question. And I think it's got to do with a lot of different things. Growing up, I always seemed to be like the leader of anything I did. I was the leader of the football team, leader of the hockey team. I was a leader in the neighborhood. And I always felt that I wanted to be a leader when I grew up and went to work. I had a pretty good gig with the company I worked for. I was happy there. And I say today, I think when I gave my boss a 6-month notice that I was leaving, if he would have said, "You're not leaving," I probably would have stayed, because he was a father to me.
Yeah.
But he knew I had a lot of ambitions, and I went out on my own. And I felt it was natural, because what I do enjoy out of the business, there's so many aspects of the business I enjoy, but I love to lead men and women, to be successful. I love that aspect of it. I love to be a role model. I love to set an example. And you see it around the office. I try to do the best I can. And sometimes, it's tough love. It's not easy, because what we do, there's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of pressure. And it's a lot different than it was 40 years ago. 40 years ago, there was no computers. Now everything's in real time, and customers expect that. And we have to produce.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, especially the leading and the teaching aspect. I could at least speak for myself and, my team. You're always pushing us to do better and, answer the phone faster, respond to the client, more professional, or do this that way. You're not doing it because you want to tell us what to do. You're doing it because you've been in the industry for 40 plus years and you know how to guide us so we could be a better version of ourselves for tomorrow. And I think that's extremely important, and that's lost, I think, in a lot of companies in their culture. A lot of people want to lead with an iron fist and almost act like a dictator, but they don't realize a real leader teaches and guides their team to be successfure.
And it's challenging now because you're dealing with Generation X, Generation Y, millennials.
We're gonna go through the whole alphabet
I'm in
here.
my 60s, and I have to try to stay relevant to the young people. One thing I've always did was try to understand them. I put myself that I was that young person one time looking for mentorship. And I also do a lot of reading about how to treat young people. And it is. I challenge them. I challenge young people, but they get into it. One thing that's different, and one thing I could put my finger on, what's different than young people today than it was 40 years ago, was that you have to explain to them why you're doing something. When I was your age, nobody explained to me. They just said, do it.
You had your marching orders, and that was it.
And that was it. But I really enjoy working with the young people. And what's really satisfying is that they respond to an old guy like me. And that really makes me feel good.
Fast forwarding, into the recent years of the business, around 2012, 2013, you made a decision. I'm sure it was thoughts that you had prior to take a more proactive approach to the way we were handling our clients and introducing preventative maintenance to our company. I know you have Anthony Galetta and Dave in the service department, and they're handling the day-to-day residential service stuff and the residential service calls and building houses and all that great stuff, and they're knocking it out of the park there. What was your reason to wanting to open a more electrical preventative maintenance, proactive approach, predictive approach to the electrical industry when you already had a service department?
I could really take advantage of our customer service approach. Even though some of the roads we were taking on the preventive maintenance were new to us, our customer service was old to us. We knew how to do that. And I like that part of the business. I like the customer service part of the business. I like talking and customers really appreciating our knowledge. I mean, at any time that we sit around a conference table, you're there or you walk by, we have 200 years of experience, 250 years of experience around a conference table, maybe more sometimes, of this type of knowledge. And I just felt that I wanted to get back to a little bit of my roots, where I came from. A lot of times you build a building and you're doing customer service, but there's a lot of, you're dealing with a computer screen and specifications.
Yeah, that's it. You're dealing with blueprints and just being a
And that's
number.
cool for what we're doing.
Yeah.
But for what the foundation is in the company and our DNA, I felt this is where we needed to go. And also I felt this is where the landscape was going in New York. I really felt that way. Even though, with our preventive maintenance, we have franchise partners throughout the country, throughout the world.
Throughout the world, yeah.
And, we're privy to those jobs they do and how they approach those jobs. And it seems like believe it or not, other parts of the states, they're a little bit more aggressive with preventive maintenance, where New York is a little bit, I think, a little behind on that.
Yeah, I think New York is a little behind for a couple of reasons, and one of the biggest reasons is really budgeting. I think budgets are a heavy focus point in New York, and it takes the team going out there to educate the facilities managers or whoever they may be reporting to really highlight and identify why preventative maintenance is more important than buying a $100,000 tree for your lobby.
Just think about what you just said, budget. So now we get to work with our expertise, what we know, our knowledge, and our customer service, and we're able to work with that customer with their budget.
Yep.
Transparently, and to make it a safe building.
Yep.
So we're checking off all the boxes here.
That's the key there, and you said it earlier too when you started the company. Safety is of paramount importance with everything we do, from the facility we're working in to our own team and our technicians making sure that they're wearing the right PPE before they stand in front of a live switchgear. Because what we're doing on a daily basis, I don't think a lot of people realize how dangerous it really is, and I think the technicians that are doing this work do deserve a lot of credit for the hazards that they're approaching, and the safety side of it can't be emphasized enough on how important it is.
Yeah, and we're very blessed. The people we have in our testing TAG department, we're very blessed who we have. And I think what the challenging thing for me, though, was I didn't know anything about salesmen going into this, and I needed salesmen. I just know electricians. And so now I hire salesmen, and I don't see them. They're out. And I'm like, I say to my GM, where's the salesman? Where's this person? Where's that person? And, it was really difficult. It was really difficult. A lot of times I said, I don't know if this is going to work because of the sales and the salespeople I needed. I didn't know that. That was uncharted territory for me.
Yeah.
And listen, you came back to work for us, and you always been in and out of the company working for us, whether it was sweeping the floors or going to get coffee or just eating our food. You were always, around.
I was always around.
And then we put you into estimating, you really excel. And I was looking for somebody who has a little swag, and you had that swag and that confidence. And once I put you into sales, you just ate it up. And that was the game changer here. You coming in as a salesperson, and Val coming in as GM, and we have Gary Mancini as our engineering support, and our techs. What can we say about our techs and the training they do? I mean, we have experts come in and train them. Yep. We send them down to Atlanta for training once a year. Yep. We send other people in that department to Atlanta to train. So it's been a really an interesting ride, and I'm really excited what tomorrow is going to bring for us in that department.
My first day of you proposing, I make this move into the TAG division back in 2020. It was 2 weeks before the pandemic, nonetheless. Couldn't have been a better time of, society, stability to get a sales position. And you came up to me and said, listen, I have this TAG division, and I think you'd be a good fit for it. And that's what I had. And I said, all right, I guess we're gonna figure this thing out.
It's funny. We talk about. I mean, this is all about social media here, right?
That's it.
This is this is the what we're talking about here. But I realized you did come right in. I think you started, and the next day the pandemic hit, and we laid off people, men and women. But one thing I realized, you really took advantage of social media and were contacting people through that, whether it was a Zoom call and a Teams call, but you really took advantage of it. Yeah. And that opened up a whole new thing for me. And you know how I push it now. I mean, the salespeople we hire now, they have to be able to embrace that. Yeah. And we're also... we're starting a program throughout the whole network of franchise partners, a social media program, and you're spearheading that.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So it's pretty exciting.
To rewind back to when I did, my grassroots of this department, when the pandemic hit, I was utilizing LinkedIn not to sell TAG or Lippolis. I was simply reaching out to people and offering to drop toilet paper off at their house, or if they needed help getting groceries to their house if they couldn't get out, or if they had a sick family member. These are people I never met before, and because of that, I have retained a sizable amount of those now clients that want to work with us, not because of the professional aspect of how we handle the account, but because we're humans first.
Right.
You know, and more than anything, you know, the relationships, the way we talk to these people, the way we enter their facilities, you know, the overall customer care is of paramount importance here, in my opinion.
Telling me this right now is bring me back to my customers 40 years ago, my customers that I had, that they had children the same age as my children, and I'm still in contact with them. They still call me to do work. And I'm able to have a conversation is that, oh, how's your kid doing? And now they're 38 years old, they have children. You know, customer service is just more than, it's a big picture, and you and I talk about it a lot. And once you get it, sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, it is.
And you're doing a good thing. You're saying, hey, by the way, do you need toilet paper? Or how's your grandfather doing? How many people I called during the pandemic, you know, that were plus 80 years old, that I would call and say, hey, how you doing? You all right? You need anything? My customers. And, you know, I wasn't thinking about, okay, maybe it'll give me a job by me doing this. It was just being a good person. And I think that's important, obviously.
And that's one thing we really did capitalize to, you know, during the pandemic, you know, that whole, you know, just overall community outreach, I should say, when we connected with Benfield Electric and we put together over 300 PPE care packages to distribute to various hospitals in the area, and expected nothing in return.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, is helping the community and how can we give back, you know, because we're more than businessmen. We're more than just electricians, you know, at the end of the day. We're humans, and we want to see people do better and be happy.
Well, you know how I feel about community, and, you know, that could be for the next podcast. And,
Yeah.
And I think that is a good subject for a podcast because, you know, at the end of the day, it shows, like, the real character of a person.
Yeah.
Like, I like to go away with some business acquaintances. I like to go away with them because you see a different aspect of them. You see how they call their wife and they call their kids and make sure everything's all right. And you get to really know that person. You might not know them before you go away, but when you get back, you know them.
You know who they
Good
are.
or bad, you
Good
know
or
them.
bad. Exactly. So let me ask you, outside of the professional realm, the business realm, tell me what some of your personal interests are. What do you like to do for fun? Do you have a funny story from back in the day you would like to tell? Tell us a little bit about Carmine Lippolis.
I don't know if I could tell any funny stories, but it's funny. That's a great question. I love to say I'm a scratch golfer, but I'm not. But I like to play golf. I play a lot of golf. I belong to Westchester Hills and White Plains. Great club and great bunch of guys and men and women, and I'm truly blessed to be a part of that. So I play a lot of golf. And I think now, at the end of the day, the thing that really gets me going is I have 7 grandkids. And, you know, I have 4 granddaughters and 3 grandsons, 2 just in the last 2 weeks. And I think that really gets me going. My home life gets me going. I have a wife that supports me through all of this, and I think really now it's family. You know, my mom. My mom's 100 years old.
100 years old.
She worked for the company until she was 87. She's 100 years old and she's strong. She can be 101 Tuesday.
Unbelievable.
So I'm really blessed with that. I spend a lot of time with my mom now, just to make sure she's all right. And I think mostly now what I do for fun is just to hang around with my family.
Yeah, and that's what's important, and that's, at the end of the day, that's what all this is about, you know, making sure that we can spend that time with our families and take care of our families ultimately, and really enjoy life, you know, for what life is. So let me ask you, outside of family and friends, what can you say about my golf game? What are your thoughts? I know we've played together a couple of times, and this one should incite a couple of laughs behind the camera.
Looking like a golfer, you got that box checked. You have that box checked. But I will put it this way: if anybody plays with you, I wouldn't stand on your right side because you have this slice and a half. But listen, golf is a crazy game. I think anybody who's going to watch this that plays golf are going to agree with me. It's a crazy game. It's a humbling game, and you have to play a lot to be a little bit good.
Yeah.
And you don't play enough.
I do not.
You want to play, but right now you're in a tough position because you're young and you're starting your family. You know, you're starting that journey, and you need to work.
That's it.
But there's a lot of times what you do, I think you really work it well, is that you incorporate golf with business, and you do it well that way. So right now, my advice to you is if you could just get on the golf course and not go through 24 balls and maybe just go through 6 balls, that's a win for you.
That is a win. That's my main objective. I'm not worried about breaking 90 or anything like that. I'm worried about not going through a box of balls in a day of golf.
I think we went out for a meeting last week, and we had was 5 of us. We're gonna play. We talked about playing golf. I said Steve's not playing.
There was 5 of us. You guys are going to be the foursome. I'm going to make sure your drinks are cold, and if you need food on the course, I'll get it for you.
That's it. But no, it's all good. As long as you get out there and you're able to, we call it hack around, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So listen, before we close today, I just wanted to throw out, what the listeners can expect, in the future, some topics, and listen, everything's subject to change. Every once in a while, we might bring on a special guest. We're gonna see who's out there that may be interested in getting on the podcast. But some topics you can look forward to listening for are infrared testing, shutting down a New York City tower, and how you go about that. Facilities management, the day in the life of a facilities manager. Code compliance, technological advancements, relationships, industry trends, how to close a deal. Some horror stories, success stories, and funny stories of the industry, and many more topics, related to engineering, construction, and overall business development and how to run a business and the success and the do's and the don'ts behind that.
I think as this podcast evolves, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to have a hybrid of everything. I think everything you said is important, but I also believe that, you should talk about community and maybe discuss something, not necessarily like I brought up the millennials, that whole topic, but things that are sort of out of the box, because I think it's important to show that side of what we are and what you could bring to the table, and I think that would be really good and exciting to do that. I mean, that's what I like to see. As far as I'm concerned, this is your baby, and I support you 1,000% on this, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to watching them and listening to you, because I know every podcast that you do, you're going to have a discussion with me prior, just because you like to talk. We like to talk to each other.
Yeah. You always need a game plan.
So you do throw things against my wall, and, I try to make them stick for you. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And listen, Carm, I want to thank you again for coming on today, telling us a little bit about yourself, talking about the future of the podcast, and, I'm sure we'll see you on here another time, and we'll talk about some of those topics that you'd like to cover as well. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
It was a great time.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more episodes Beyond the Blueprint, hosted by Stephen Marcelino. Thank you all for listening.